What is up, everybody? It's your favorite, Mr. Grossarth. Today we're doing Module 5, Lesson 4. So today what we're going to do is we're going to use multiplication to calculate volume. It's really not much different than what we've been doing, but I want to add something, almost like a little twist to this plot. And I'm going to show you that towards the end of the lesson, so just stick around and watch, because you're going to need to know that for the problem set and the homework tonight. So we're going to get to that in the second half of the lesson. But I have a question for you. Okay, we're going to go over this little, we call it like an application problem for your mind. Okay, so I'm going to read this problem for you, and I want you to then pause the video, think it through, and then we'll come back and we'll go over it. So Karen says that the volume of this prism is 5 meters cubed and that she calculated it by adding all the sides together. Explain Karen's error and give the correct volume. So I want you to think about it for a second, and I want you to pause the video here and maybe write down a little bit of an explanation, and then we're going to come back in just a second to see if your explanation will match mine. So I'm pause the video here, so you'll pause it on me making this face. Okay, now we're back. And if you didn't pause it, then I looked very silly just now, didn't I? So let's go and figure out what Karen did wrong. So what did she do wrong? She added all the sides. She did 2 plus 2 plus 1, which would have given her 5, but that's not how you're supposed to find volume. What she should have done was multiplied. Yes, she should have. So in order to find the volume of this prism, she should have done 2 times 2 times 1, which is going to give you 2 times 2 is 4. And 4 times 1 is 4. So the volume of this prism should be 4 meters cubed. I'm going to use a different marker because this one's not writing very well. So just give me a second. Let me pick out one. There you have it. Okay, so we have a volume of 4 meters cubed, not 5. She's wrong. Okay, she added the sides. We should have multiplied length times width times height. Okay? Now, let's move on to the next aspect of our lesson. And it says, each rectangular prism is built from centimeter cubes. State the dimensions and find the volume. So what are dimensions? When you hear this word dimensions, okay, it's going to be like a new math vocabulary word. The word dimensions is simply just length, width, and height. That's all dimension means. So you can have a filing cabinet, and to figure out the dimensions, you measure the length, the width, and the height. Remember last lesson I was explaining about me selling one of my keyboards, and I needed to know the dimensions, the length, the width, and the height. So we're going to figure out the volume of this by figuring out the length, the width, and the height. Okay, so again, the length I'm going to say is this. The order doesn't really matter. The only thing that's, I think, really obvious is that width is how wide something is, you know, left to right. That's width to me. The length and would have to be this, right? Because height would be how tall something is. Okay, but again, the order doesn't really quite matter because all you're really doing is multiplying. So you could do height times width times length. You could do width times length times height. It doesn't matter. Okay, because you're using the commutative property of multiplication, so you can multiply numbers in different orders and get the same answer. So anyway, the length of this is going to be 1, 2. So we're going to put 2 here. The width is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And of course, we want to make sure that we're labeling properly. So this says centimeters. We're going to say centimeters. And the height, we're going to count up now, just like the arrows show here. 1, 2. And now we have to do what with these? Multiply them. So 2 times 5 is 10. And then 10 times 2 is 20 centimeters cubed, and I'm going to put my answer right there. Okay. Now let's move on to the next aspect of this lesson. So this is the only thing that I really think is super tricky about this, which, again, if you really understand it, it's not that tricky at all. So you know that to find the volume of something, you have to do length times width times height. Let's go back to area. And if you remember how to find the volume of the area of something, then you just do length times width. It's almost the same thing. They're like, volume is like the bigger brother of area. So take a look here. It says, what is the volume? Now the first thing I'm going to look for is, what's the length? Okay, I get 5. What's the width? Oh, there's no width. Okay, what's the height? Oh, there's no height. Huh. So how do I do this? Well, we already have some useful information here. Okay, and the useful information is that this already gives us the area. Now remember how to find area is length times width. So we already have that figured out. We already know the length times width. So the only thing we need to do is multiply this extra number here that's given, which is the height, or in this case, we'll call it the height. So we know the area, so all we have to do is multiply the height. So we have 60. Now, if you look underneath, it says the 60 is length times width times height, which is the 5. So you do 60 times 5, which will give you 300 centimeters cubed. Okay, so when you know the area of something, just to summarize what this all is, when the area of the surface is given to you, all you have to do to find the volume is multiply the height, or the extra number that's given. Okay? So once again, there's going to be links to the chart. There's going to be links to an additional YouTube video that you might find useful. Problem set's due. Homework is due tonight. So make sure you get that into me. I will be grading throughout the day. Okay? If you need me, I'm going to be on Google Classrooms from 8:30 to 2:30. I'll be there to answer messages, whatever you need. You let me know. All right? I'll see you guys soon. See you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.